Peter Finnan here for Irish Golfer. We're here today at Concept Golf, and if you are looking for a driver in 2023, there are plenty of options out there. We've seen so many of them launched in the last month, and yeah, they all look really good. But if you are choosing a driver for 2023, there are certain products that launched their drivers going back, namely Titleist, with their TSR, the latest in the Titleist Speed project. They're not to be overlooked. I'm here with Mark O'Mahony from Concept Golf, and we're really going to just have a look at TSR, see what it does, have a look at the different performance characteristics in each head, and see exactly how it fits into the spectrum with all of this year's drivers. But it's definitely not one to be overlooked. It might be out a few months. It's still a new driver, 2-year cycle, so it's going to be here for a while. So, Mark, talk to me. TSR.
I think TSR naturally is a refinement on their speed story from TS into TSI into now TSR. So I think naturally into generation 3 of this kind of story that they've been bringing to the market, it's quite interesting. It's a more refined product. They're after releasing 3 heads as opposed to their general kind of timeline of 2 and then the afterthought of the 3rd and 4th. So it's kind of an interesting space that Titleist have brought this within. It'd tell me, bringing the 3 heads out, that they're very confident in what they brought to the market, and vastly different heads and performances. I really like what they've done with the TSR 4 and 2. They kind of combine the same technology in the face, and the 3 kind of has a side story as to its performance across and up and down the face.
So, technology and then face. They've changed this face this year. It's a firmer, more flexible material, is what they're saying. They've messed with the COR a little bit. Mm-hmm. It is faster than the TSI product. What are you finding in your testing so far?
I'm finding definitely across and up and down the face. So when you slightly miss it off center, I'm finding the retention of ball speed. I'm also seeing that whilst TSR 3 has a little bit more kind of bulge and roll on the face, a little bit more exposure to the toe, we're not seeing that curvature in the flight. So very stable product, and exactly to kind of what you raised there in the face construction, it's a variable face thickness. The TSR 2 and TSR 4 are designed in a multi-plateau face, whereas the TSR 3 is a more, they call it radial speed ring, so more circular. So that's the differential between the chassis, if you will, as to what the club is built on, and then the face design for ultimately the engine that is given the power of ball speed off the face and through impact. So it's that deflection that they're always working with, hence to your point of bringing up the kind of the slightly faster ball speed.
We'll go into the 3 different club heads and stuff like that. First thing, for like, it's a very classic looking Titleist driver, that pear shape. You know, everybody knows it. What I like about Titleist is the simplistic, clean. There's no messing with Titleist. Like, they're very traditional. You look down on that, you know straight away it's a Titleist driver. It's just, it is. There's no distraction. No. Looking down, there's like, it's all business.
Yeah.
But is there reasons behind, like, all other manufacturers are playing with carbon?
Yeah.
You know, everybody, even looking at this year, some of the products that you wouldn't expect to go down that route, like Wilson. Wilson have a carbon crown driver this year. You know, so why are Titleist sticking with the tried and tested old ways of doing it? Now, I'm not saying it's any worse, but like, is there reasons why they're not?
I'd say there would be, kind of not known specifically, but kind of looking at the technology and the story that they're kind of continuing with. I don't think carbon was in that kind of, that timeline was in that overall kind of story. It might be an entry maybe in their next generation, or it might be something that they're looking into. And equally, they might have already looked into it for this generation and may not have seen the advancements within it. I think the interesting thing with when you enter carbon into a driver or into any product, you are most definitely changing overall weight. You're changing sound. Yeah, and it's quite interesting with a lot of the feedback from kind of Team Titleist and also the tour player was with 917 into TS, the sound difference or the acoustics was huge, and continued into then and TSI with that ATI face, and the ATI face is still with TSR. So the sound is huge, but the weighting system for me, I think you're into a whole different type of construction if you go down that carbon route.
Looking across the three heads then, where do you want to start? You want to start with the one that you game?
I've kind of been playing around with TSR 3. Yeah. Obviously, kind of over the years, I would have always had Titleist Driver in the bag, and
that's the most popular on tour, though, isn't it? The 3 is.
Yeah, and I think that was the interesting thing with TSI. Sorry, there was some players moving out of the 3 into the 2, and I feel the TSI 3 at the time might have just not been working into the window that the guys wanted to perform with, and the 2 was just that little bit more stable, but wasn't offering the ball speed that they required. So it was kind of that catch-22. So definitely between the TSR 3 and the TSR 2, I've gone through pretty outstanding changes. In my opinion, the profile of the 3 is just a little bit more kind of player profile, and a bit more kind of to that kind of liking of a player who wants to move the ball potentially, see multi-shots, but equally it's a stable. And that's where, with the weight shift in the head, they're getting that bit more energy. With the stability in the face, they're not getting that big miss. So you kind of have the best of both worlds with the shape of the head and its invitation to hit different shots without kind of falling off the cliff of performance.
Yeah. With the TSR 2,
yeah,
then like what sort of player brackets do these clubs fit in? I know we're not going to go down to like handicaps or swing speeds, but what are you seeing is like?
It's an interesting question, because each player will kind of demand different kind of look and feel, unbeknownst to themselves maybe, but in the process of a fitting, that's my job and responsibility to be able to delve into. A player kind of in double digits might hit a TSR 3 better than they hit a TSR 2, when kind of the market might be stating that a TSR 2 is better for them. I think the great thing with the Titleist product is the universal kind of performance it gives. And then it's just linking it into the pattern of motion with that player that's before you. Going back into kind of what TSR 2 will offer the individual, I think TSR 2 is probably the most developed driver head for Titleist. I think they've learned so much from kind of 3 or 4 generations ago, and they've been able to bring in such a better structure within a bigger body that just not only offers stability, but it really packs a punch. And even in the short time frame of working with the TSR 2, it's definitely eked out a little bit more performance as well as stability over some of its competitors. And exactly to your point, it's that initial attraction that the Titleist product offers to the individual. It's nearly like that allure of something that they always wanted, but never could have because of the fall off of forgiveness or lack of. Whereas now it's such a great package that offers everything that the golfer wants. So I really think if there was a driver that I would look at first and foremost in a fitting for any level of player, would be the TSR 2, straight into their hands, and then start playing around with shot shaping, start gaining a little bit more understanding as to what this player is looking for, how they move the ball, so on and so forth. So yeah, TSR 2 will be my starting point.
TSR 4 then, so this is like, there's not many people making 430cc heads anymore. It's quite a niche product, very niche product. They've really added a new dimension to this. I know like one of the biggest drawbacks from the TSI 4 was it was too low spinning. A lot of guys on tour or people hitting it, it dropped out of the sky for them. Really, unless you're really up there with speed wise, this thing's just falling out of the sky. They've changed that. They've added spin to their low spin offering. They've made it a much tidier package and a much more, you can play with the weights on it now. You can mess around with it. So what are you finding in that? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is, and I think because it's come out with the 2 and the 3, it's kind of that additional offering, which is kind of interesting. haven't kind of fitted a lot with it. Have introduced it in a fitting, should I say, haven't recommended a lot. And I think it's a very niche product, as you said. I think probably the hits it'll get on tour is probably 2-3 players at any one time, you know, and you might have a pocket of performance or a window of performance for a specific player that they just fall into that and that's what they're looking for, and then 2 weeks later they're back into maybe a 2 or a 3. So I think for me, if I was offering a TSR to someone, they would want to be a very, very consistent driver of the golf ball, finding the sweet spot 80-90% of the time, 90% of the time. And all they're looking for is just a little bit of workability. They're looking for that confidence in the profile, and then ultimately it is that overall kind of creativity with the club. You are right with the shifting of weight. You can go from an 11 gram to 3 grams. So you can have one in the front, one in the back, and you can alternate them at any one time. The key thing to remember is when you're moving weight and when you're putting a heavier weight behind the face, you're going to generate more velocity. So naturally, when you put that heavy weight to the back of the club, you're going to generate a little bit more launch and potentially a little bit more stability. It's important to say as well, when that weight's at the front, that's where you're creating the shifting of ball flight. You're generating more spin.
How do the Titleist TSR drivers then? We've seen, like, most of these preview videos and review videos were done back in September on product. We didn't know what it was going up against. We had a fair idea. It's an aero story with a little bit more forgiveness and speed that Titleist has gone for. Where does it fit into the overall spectrum? Is it punching up there with the big boys performance-wise?
I think so. I think Titleist were at the party a long time ago with the TS product. TSI was kind of, I feel, another evolution of kind of where they're maintaining that kind of that energy, that speed. And I think TSR is a follow-on now that they have that stability, they have that speed, and they're probably just bringing a little bit more of that authenticity of what Titleist is about and that kind of traditional kind of club head, and making it into a really good package. But they've been up there for quite a while, and I think it's testament to the numbers you see on tour week in, week out with the usage.
So there you have it. Like, if you are looking for a driver this year and you're going and you're mad to get the new products from TaylorMade or Callaway or Ping into your hands, don't forget Titleist. It is out a few months, like we said at the start of the video, but it's not to be overlooked. There is serious performance gains to be had, and like we said, it is the #1 played driver on PGA and European Tour in professional golf, so do have a look at it. Looks and feel wise, like if Batman was to use a driver, it would be this one. It looks really slick, so definitely have a look at it, have a go, and yeah, Titleist TSR definitely gets a thumbs up from us.